Hello again, everybody. This is Harry Boxer of the Technical Trader, and thanks for being here. But before we start, I just wanted you to take a look at my website, which is a day and swing trading website with hundreds of people in it every day, sharing great ideas and finding the best charts that are tradable. And what I'm going to show you today is a, one second, please. I want to log in here. What I'm going to show you today is a basically, I'm going to show you that the best patterns for day trades and using 1 minute charts intraday. But I just want to show you an example of the kind of stuff that goes on my site all day. Constant heads up, constant ideas, constant news items, anything relative to stock, and everybody's sharing, including myself. And you can also at any time ask me a question personally, or anybody in the room. It's a totally viable site for you. So there's a 2-week free trial right now. Please sign in. No credit card necessary, and we'll welcome you aboard. And I think you'll have a lot of fun and make some money just in the 2-week free trial, enough to pay for a full year. Anyway, go to TradeOutLoud and sign in, and you'll see some new users register here. We have all kinds of services available. And that's it for that right now. That's my spiel. Folks, I want to point out to you the kind of money that can be made in the market just by using intraday patterns, okay? It's very, very possible to find stocks like Electros today. Now, we didn't find the stock till later, but when I looked at the chart, I said, this is a no-brainer. Why? Because here's a penny stock, and we don't trade penny stocks, so I probably wouldn't even notice this until it broke out of this coil. But take a look at the pattern. Pop with big volume, form a little wedge. And these are the kind of patterns I'm talking about. When I see a morning pop and wedge, and I see a low volume ebb, what a low volume ebb means is simply this. When a stock pops, it gets very quiet near the apex and get very low volume. It's like ebb tide, when the tide rolls out and stalls for a second before it comes back in. That little ebb tide is similar in stocks when there's a meeting of buyers and sellers, and it gets very quiet, and it's kind of like a Mexican standoff. They're waiting to see who's going to come up. Who's gonna blink first, basically. Notice the volume here. This was the key to this whole trend today, in my opinion. 59,000 shares doesn't sound like a lot, but it was the biggest volume bar of the day, and it broke the stock out through $1. Now, I don't get interested in stocks because in my site, we don't trade penny stocks. I look for stocks over $2 at least, but I want to see stocks trading a lot of volume. In this case, 3 million shares doesn't sound like a lot, but for a stock that never trades, it's huge. Anyway, from the point being that the stock opened at 51 cents, got up to about $2.12, and then coiled for 4 hours. This was the key breakout right there. Popped and retested, popped again and retested, and then it stair-stepped its way all the way up. Believe it or not, at the end of the day, this is $5.60 from an opening at 56 cents. At 10-fold increase, 1,000% on the day. And at any point during the day, you could have bought this stock and watched the trend and make money. So, and I wanted to point that out because that's just one idea. But during the course of the session, I'm always pointing out ideas. Matter of fact, when you come into my site, I spend an hour and a half pre-market going over dozens and dozens of charts, news events. I want to see which stocks are popping. And not only thrusting price and volume-wise, but I want to see at least 5 to 10 times normal volume, even in the pre-market. For example, last night, Progenity, the diagnostic and research firm, which yesterday closed at 369, gapped up and coiled, and then drifted higher, and at one point traded up to 410. By the time the market opened, you'll see the spike that exploded the stock. At 9:32, 2 minutes after the opening, you could have bought this at 383. It exploded and formed a wedge. That's the perfect wedge for me. Again, what I look for every morning is a wedge, flag, coil, something that's showing a consolidation on low volume. Well, this one popped dramatically from 383 in minutes to 444, and then formed a perfect coil. Now notice near the apex of this coil, the volume got quiet, and then it exploded. This is where the stock broke out, and this is where I put a day trade on for my people today at 438. Within less than an hour, the stock reached 505. Then it had a perfect 5-wave decline, Elliott wave, 5-wave pullback, and then formed like a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders. Here's your breakout, here's your retest. Notice that the volume weighted average price, or VWAP, held right there, and it stair-stepped its way up all day. I told my people to sell us at 535. The high was 543. And now it's coiling after hours and may even go higher. But from the entry point this morning, for those who got out quickly and got back in, there were 2 trades on the stock today. But I want to point out that this is a 1-minute intraday chart with a net gain on the stock of $1.75 or 50%. And it only traded a mere 365 million shares today. No kidding. Incredible volume. 36% gain, 50% gain on 1/3 of a billion shares. That's the kind of stock we want to be in because liquidity is incredible. You can get in and out of 10, 20,000 if you want very quickly. But when a stock shows me symmetry, wedges, flags, coils, inverse head and shoulders, retests, trend lines, all of that in our favor, we stick with it. Even at the end of the day, when it's from this coil, I said if it breaks out here, it's probably a buy right there, over 505. And it went vertical to 543 and then coiled. So that's the kind of stock and the kind of patterns we look for every day. Here's another one, RETO. Now, the day started out with that RETO popped and coiled pre-market. Now, when it gets to the apex or right near, very narrow at the apex of a coil and breaks out, that's right, I indicated to my people, pre-market, if this gets over 205, it could be a trade. Now take a look at the angle of ascent on this one. And it held this trend line all morning into about 2 p.m. when it spiked up, and I told everyone to sell at 275. The high was 280. It got hammered, double top, and pulled back. But from a point at which we bought the stock in the 206 range to a high of 280 some odd or 275, this is a 75-cent trade on a $2 stock, which is on the order of 35%. And how do I get my targets and how do I get my stops? Well, my philosophy has always been when a pattern forms, go to the bottom of that pattern and set a stop in case it takes it out. When this starts to break, in other words, it pulls back, retests, and pops, raise your stop there. Raise it to there. And raise it to there. But you notice that it never broke down. Raise it to there. Raise it to there. This stock has never broken a support level all day, not one prior low. So it's easy to stay in a stock like that. Just continue trading the trend. Now, some people, and the question I get asked all the time is, how do I stay in a stock? I always sell it too early and the stock keeps going. That's because you're nervous because you don't want to give it back. The truth is, the disciplined trader knows what to do. Just keep raising your stops. Or if you had a target, and I had a target on this one of 245, it hit 247. So you would have sold some there, okay? You would have had a stop underneath it there, and you would have been protected all the way up. My next target was 275. This high here was 280. So you would have been taken out of a part. And I always say a third, a third, a third. So you sell a third, you sell a third, and you may be holding a third and or may have just gotten stopped out right there. You see it? So my point being is that the way to trade a stock is to stay in it while you raise stops to the prior lows. And when in an uptrend, the stock usually won't break the lows. It'll just keep going until it does break. I'm going to point this out last night because you're going to love this one. Unfortunately, I can't get it right now. But last night, this stock popped, wedge, pop, wedge, pop, wedge, and it ran all the way up until it got hammered. And I told everybody this morning to keep an eye on it because if it pops above right that level, and it got right to it and failed. This is why the stock was not a trade today. I told them to stay away from it. IONQ is another great example. Check this out, everyone. So pre-market, it popped and formed a little falling wedge. And then it popped again and had another falling wedge. By that time, the market's already open. What I did is I waited for this breakout there, and we went long, and we raised our stop to there. And when it broke out above that high, we doubled our positions. And that was at about 21.5. Notice the spike up to 23.5 or 2 points within about 10 minutes, if that. But the key is we raised our stops, we raised our stops. Notice that that stop, the stock then formed a wedge right there. Low volume ebb, see the low volume right there? You know, the apex? When the bars get real small and the volume gets real small in an uptrend, it usually means a continuation. Notice this bar pop out right there. That was a breakout. It then went from 22.80 to 25, basically, in less than another 40 minutes. But what happened here, this stop was taken out by a little, but it resumed the trend. And I always tell everybody the best way to be in a stock that you've been stopped out is to go back in. The problem is most human psychology is when you lost money or you stopped out of a stock, you'll say, all right, I'm done. Instead, go back in and you can make some more money. That happens all the time. I'm so amazed by how often I'm stopped out by just a little, like this was the case here. But go back in once it breaks back above the moving average. Right there would have been a great buy at 23.60. And within 45 minutes, it was 25.84, another $2.20, 25 cents. So you can see how that's the way you stay in a stock. BLZE, now check this out. And this is from today, folks. I'm not cherry picking this. These are stocks we traded today. And this happens every day. So early on, pre-market, the stock popped from, this is about, right on the opening. It popped from 26.30 to 28.25, about almost $2. And then it wedged. There's where I put a swing, a day trade on. When it broke out above 20, I said above 28, 28.10. Well, within an hour, it was 31.30, $3 trade. My target was 29.5 and 31. I remember that distinctly. We hit both targets. 31.05 was tagged, 31.30 was tagged, and then it went into a corrective coil. But look how it held the VWAP here, 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 and there, and then started to break out. What do? You put a stop right there. If it breaks the VWAP, it's done. But this stock went up again, pulled back to the prior high right about there. See it? Not quite, almost. And then bounced. And after, this is after hours. But into the close, it finished at 31.50. We were in the morning at 28.40, something like that. So it's a $3 trade. Not bad, 10%. We'll take it all day. Playboy. This morning, Playboy traded with a pop and a flag. The flag broke out and then it pulled back, but it did not break support, which is right there. Note that it kept trending all day. And from the breakout point, even if you wouldn't have got stopped, even though you would have had a loss for a few minutes. The trade was 34.75. It quickly got to 37.60 for almost 2 points and pulled back. But if you were scared, you would have stopped out. But if you were disciplined, you wouldn't have been. And by just before the close, it was 42. So we're looking at 35 to 42, 7 points. And all day, what did it do? Held support, held support, held support, held support. Finally, at the end of the day, after hours, it was a little bit below it, but even then, great looking chart. Star of the day for me, two stocks, Rivian and Lucid, and they're both in the same group. Watch LCID today. So this is quite interesting because it popped and flagged all night. This was the key for me in the morning. When I saw the breakout of that, it ran like the wind, but this is all prior to the opening. The pullback, you can see the stock got slammed. I told everyone to wait for the breakout above the declining tops line and note this pattern. This looks like a little inverse head and shoulders, or at least a V bottom of the right-handed extension platform. There's your breakout. And just in, from the point we bought it at 48.50, 2 hours later, it's 54, 5.5 points. Never broke your trend line, not at least this one. Take a look. Perfect parallel rising channel. Best stock to trade. Now it did break right there and snap back. That's where I put a stop on it, right underneath there. 52. After hours, it's 58, folks. And I had a target of 59, as high as 59 potentially after hours. Fabulous chart. Here's another one. Now this happened midday, kind of interesting. One stock did nothing all day, but all of a sudden it went pop, wedge. There's your wedge. Then it had a pop wedge, a big one. But we went in long right there as it was breaking out across 290. And within minutes, it was 314. Not a lot. And then it wedged. And it did this. Now maybe that's off a little. There you go. So if you note that the angle of ascent was there. It popped and coiled for about 2 hours, then broke out and coiled again. But notice that this angle was above or right at the double top, and then it ran up into, at one point, 350 from where we first bought it at 290. So 60 cents on a, this is 20% trade. And notice that all day, 1, 2, triple bottom, there was your support. And when it broke out and pulled back, there was your support. And note, it never broke support and still hasn't. I want to continue to emphasize to you that the kind of trades we make at the TechTrader.com is we watch for the first thrust and the first pullback. And if we get low volume and it starts to break out again with big volume, it's almost a no-brainer for me that you got to at least put the trade on and see if we can make money on it. Now here's an interesting stock, ONON, on holding. I believe they make sneakers, but anyway, that's what I was told. So the stock popped pre-market last night, and then after hours did this. In the morning, when the market it exploded in the morning. This is in the morning, and then formed the perfect wedge. Now, right at the opening, after the wedge had formed, look at the volume that came in on this stock. Right at the opening bell, it opened at 39.5. And went vertical, and I'm not kidding, in minutes to 45.80. That's $6.30, virtually straight up. Now, sometimes you get lucky and you can stay in a stock like that. No reason to sell it, except that I had targets at 43.5 and 45.5. And 45.5, we reached 45.80, came down from the wedge. What I did here was I told everybody to either sell partial positions. Well, we sold some at 43.5 and some at 45.5. Then it formed a wedge and went even higher. And I told everybody, at this point, lower volume at a second height is always an indicator of losing momentum. So most of us got out there. Some of us kept stops in here and might have been stopped out slightly right there or not, depending on how tight you put your stop. But take a look at that before the close. This stock was trading at 46.65 from where we first got in, 39. We're looking at $7 trade. But quite frankly, if I see this kind of a quick profit, I'm out. I tell everybody, take the profit and run. Now, here's an example of an explosive move and a pullback that I had a triple bottom on and said, stop it right there. Well, I also said, don't do anything until it breaks out above 560. It never did. So that's why that stock never was put on as a trade. I also look for stocks that are trending. Now, this stock wasn't an exciting breakout, was it? Here. But note that one bar here. This comes in right there as it pops out. It trended the rest of the day after that, just that one breakout bar. And sometimes you get that. And look at the parallel rising channel right there. Perfect, almost perfectly formed. Even at the end of the day and after hours, it's still coiling. Another example, a stock that popped and coiled. Right there was the coil. And before the market opened, it popped and pulled back. When it opened and reversed, once I see on a sharp reverse like that, a line taken out right there, that's where we went long. I think it was at just about $5. Look what this stock did in minutes after that, 555. So, and then this bear wedge told everybody get out of the stock, because when I see a stock wedge to resistance and the volume is very low, or red bars, or both, it usually means the trend is over for a while. That's exactly what happened here. I was waiting for the stock to break back over 535 and never did. Another stock that trended today, GLBE. Note when a stock pops and pulls back and then breaks out, that's the buying point. At 56.90, within 2.5 hours, it was 62.5 for about 5.5 points, and then it pulled back. It probably stopped everybody out, because for me, that's where I place my stop. Now, when it breaks back out again, you can always go back in. Not that we did today, but you could have gone back in right there at 62.5 even, and watch you go to 64.25. How about Peloton today? Stellar trade. Now, it really didn't do much, except when the market finally opened, when I say didn't do much pre-market, it trended strongly before the opening and then from the wedge. That wedge gave me a heads up. I told everybody this stock's a buy over 50 and a quarter. And within an hour, hour and a half, it was 54 and a half. Then it coiled and it made a higher high, just slightly. But right now you can see that this pattern here is a large bull coil. And despite the fact that Peloton was up nearly $7 today, it doesn't look like there's any big sellers there, does it? Another one, IMAB. Usually when the stronger a stock is when it comes out of the gate, the more excited I am about it, because look how strong this was, vertical. And then it formed the flag, at which point I said, we break this flag, we're going long. So it popped 66 and a half, only got up to 67 and 35 and then backed off. So what did we do? I had a stop here that was not violated. When it started to move up again, we raised our stop to there. But we reached my target, which I said was 67 and a half and 69. The high was 69.58. So we got trades out there and there, and we're done with it. Rest of the day, it flitted sideways. Now I'm showing you example after example because this is the kind of stuff we see every day. FSR. Now here's a perfect example of a stock that looked good and then died. But you know that just because they die early on and get some selling doesn't mean they're not going to reverse the trend. In this case, the V bottom with the platform, first thing I look for is will it hold that support? And will it break out above the prior high? It did that. And then it coiled. And then it retested. Didn't go in long until here, folks. I see a beautiful bull coil like that on a low volume ebb. I'm going long if it breaks out. So it broke out right there at 22.69 and went vertical to 23.45, not a lot, and then kept going. At the end of the day, it's 24 and a half, and it's still going. But the way to stay in a trend and know that the stock is still going higher is to just keep raising your stops to a prior low. Where would you do it here? Let's go with it. There, 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 and there, and there, and yet not one time during the day. After it got its trend initiated in a beautiful parallel. By the way, stocks always, or a very, very high degree of time, they will move up in a channel just like this. It's called a rising channel, and it's usually 45 degrees or similar. Note at the end of the day, after hours, it's coiling. It may see 25 tomorrow, 25 and a half. Another example is Freshworks, a software stock that popped and formed an ascending bull wedge. Take a look at this. So I said it's a buy right there. It was a buy at 36.75. And within about a half hour, it was 37.75. And it trended up the rest of the day. Note that this, none, not one low was taken out all day. By the end of the day and after hours, just before the end of the day, 39.35 from our entry, 36 and a half. So 3 points, just about. Now here's a failed trade, a stock that exploded from the get-go and pulled back. And I said, if it breaks out, again, I mean, nothing's perfect. One thing that traders need to learn is how to take a quick loss and get out, not sit with it waiting for it to come back. Ask yourself this question. Are you in the market to break even? So then why, if you're losing a stock, are you waiting for it to come back so you can break even? If it isn't working, sell it and move on. The best traders in the world do 70, 75%, maybe 80. But the point being is that if you can do 65, 75%, 2 out of 3 trades are profitable, or 3 out of 4, you're gonna make a lot of money. Just make sure that the ones you lose on are quick, short losses. You can lose 5, 6 trades in a row if it's small losses, with one good trade making up for all that and then some. Here's a great example of something that happens during the day. I was watching the stock from a base all day, and it broke out right there. I put a swing on it at 440, I mean a day straight at 445, and it ripped to 498, 50 cents so fast that when it came down hard, I put a stop immediately right there. It never broke it. It formed a coil there. It formed a larger one, perfect one near the apex. And when it broke out, I told everybody to go long again. 478 in minutes to 531 for 50 cents. And at the end of the day and into after hours, it's still coiling. I'm sure you guys are getting this by now. that what we look for is either breakouts. Okay, and this is why I'm in the morning. Every morning I get up at 3:45 Los Angeles time where I live. I'm on the site at before 4 o'clock. For the next hour and 10 minutes, I'm going over charts, pouring over, narrowing the stocks I want to trade, creating a focus list. I then tell my people what the list is. I give them the details of each stock in that list. And then just before the opening, I'll issue buy alerts and give you target, stops, support, and resistance. Some more examples. I mean, and by the way, this is a swing trade of mine. Look, I can go over my swing trade list. It's not the same. It's a little different, but swing trades basically are the same kind of patterns. I look for stocks that had made massive down waves. Here's a perfect Elliott wave: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down. And look at the fifth wave: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's called the fifth of a fifth. And when that reverses, you go long. If it breaks out above resistance, for sure. Look how it broke the declining tops line, lateral price resistance, the 50-day moving average. All the moving averages were crossing over. It's a no-brainer buy for me. We bought this at 23 or 22 and a half. And within 6 weeks, it was 36.66. Not a bad 80% type gain in 6 weeks. That's the kind of stuff you see at TechTrader.com. So let's go over some of my recent swing trades. Hang on while I bring that window up. One moment. Okay. Stay with me. I'm going to log in, and I want to show, because I want to show you the list I have. Almost there. Okay, so I have something called, I want to show this to everybody. This is called, it's a trackable watch list of all my swing trade alerts. And you'll see the alert date, the entry price, the stops, and the targets. And the latest swing trades are in here. The swing trades over 3 weeks will be in there. Some of them because it's more than 3 weeks, some of them because they were either stopped out or met their targets or whatever. And there's 259 entries showing going back all year. So quite a few. I'm going to show you some of my recent swing trades. This was a beauty. We just put it out on November the 12th. What's that, 4 days ago? The second it broke out of this base pattern, I said, we look at the volume on it too. We went long at 763. Now that had to be, oh, that was pre-market. Yep. The stock gapped up, and when it broke out above here, this resistance was 761. As soon as I saw it go through there, we put a swing trade on it. My targets at the time were 16 and 19, I believe, and we reached. Hang on, that's the wrong stock. Targets were 9 and 11 and a half, and I just raised it to 14 and 18, 14 and 19. Take a look at this chart. Powerhouse move. Gapped up, opened at 8. 2 days later, 13.75, and still going. A very powerful move. And the reason I did that is I looked at a stock that's been around for a long time with a massive inverse head and shoulders going back 2-3 years. But more importantly, the coil that developed got narrower and narrower and narrower. It popped out, but then it failed to break through the prior high. But when it did that, that's where I went long. And this guy's the limit on this one. It could be 19 next week. I just put out, oh, here's one interesting one. Atomera, ATOM. Breaks out of the coil, very similar pattern. I put a swing on it right there, 25.41. Within a few days, it was 33. Still moving. My target's at 36 at 41. Electric vehicle manufacturer from China, Xpeng. When I see a stock that did that, it comes down in a perfect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again, breaks out and forms a kind of a falling pattern. This breakaway move is what got me. I saw the volume increase to the best in months on a breakout day above key resistance. Let's see what the target was, what we put on it. 46.10 was my, that can't be right. I'll have to double check that. But anyway, it popped out, pulled back, and now it's moving again. My target's at 55 and 59.60. And there's a few that are still working. CLSK was down today, but we put it out when it broke out right there. And the swing targets were 20 and 25. I believe we reached 23 and change. 23.60 to be exact. Now today it's pulling back to support. Had a bad day today. Yes, we have bad days. APA in the oil sector. This is the third time I put a swing this year on it. This time at 23.68. That day. No, that's not correct. Yeah, this day. Right there. It broke out of that wedge. And from 23.68, this stock has reached 31. It's up 8 points, and it still looks higher to me. And I think the oil sector in itself is going higher. This looks like a $35 to $40, $38 stock, something like that. SSYS was one of our best trades, and I mean quick. Again, another pattern with a base that broke out. We put a swing on it right there. 25.02. Less than a month, it spikes to 42.83. Now my targets were originally 28 and 30, and then 35.38, and we reached 42.83 for a bonus. And now the pullback. I don't think it's a bad pullback. It might not be done. If you're looking at the overall pattern, you might have more to go. Here's a stock I want everybody to keep your eye on. Seed. The genetically modified seeds are going to be approved in China shortly. This stock could rip. Look at the move. I originally gave this to everybody when it broke out here at about 4. The stock made it to 25. That took about 7 or 8 months, but it was a beauty. And then this pullback, sharp one, and now it's basing. Watch for a breakout. We get above 12, the stock's going to fly, I think, 14, 16, 18, 20, whatever. Could be big. SOFI is another swing we put out. Take a look at the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, or rounding bottom is more what it was like. But that day right there, when it had a little breakaway gap and the volume was huge, I put that out at $18.10. Within a few weeks, 24.65. Even though it was down today, I don't know if it's done yet. It looks like it could be higher. So there's tons of examples of the kind of stocks that I put out. We can go over all of them over and over, but I wanted to show you example. Here's another beauty. This is one of my best trades of the year. Not the last couple of days, but here's where I put it out, believe it or not. When I saw this little break, double top breakout right there, I believe it was late September of last year, it was 6 3/4. Within 4 months, it was 28. This little wedge breakout, put a second reiterate trade on it. And we got out of it in that mid to high 20s. I went back in recently when it popped and pulled back. This one looks like it can go higher, but it did have a reversal yesterday. Some good selling, but it reached 33, folks, from my original 5 3/4 recommendation. Another one I like is SLI. Put it out at the high 8s when it broke through here, and it made it up to 12.87, 4 points very quickly, and now it's pulled back. May not be done, but the lithium group has acted weak in the last few days, so we'll see if that extends. QS, another one. We saw the big run it had last year, and then this big pullback. Well, when it broke through here, through the prior high, I put a swing on it. Actually, it was here when it broke out. Sorry, 923 when it broke out right there. Now it popped. It was a breakout. It was right there. So it broke out from 22.5 and ran up to 28 3/4, and then pulled back and expanded the base. This was a too short a base pattern. That's where the real breakout came, and that move took us from 23.5 to yesterday's high of 43, 20 points. So, sometimes we hit them perfect and sometimes we don't, but for the most part, the vast majority of our trades are winners. This is a short trade I put on, MRVI, which broke down, formed the perfect bear flag, and we were short around 47 or 8. Within 6 weeks, it reached 33 and change. And so there's a lot of examples of stocks that did well for us, and most of them did. I'm still waiting for XENE to make a move. It broke out and pulled back, formed a wedge. I put a swing on it. It did pop, but now it's pulled back again. I'm waiting for the big move, which I think is 40, 45, and 50. It's a biotech stock. But usually when you get a breakaway gap of that magnitude, the stock will start to trend higher within minutes. ACY was a quick one. It worked very well for a while. See that coil? See how narrow it got near the apex? See how low the volume is? Look at that little bar right there. Hardly was trading at all. 10,000 shares that day traded. No kidding. 1256. As soon as it broke out, I put a swing on it. I believe it was 12. And in a few weeks, the stock was 66, one of our best trades of the year. I actually put a second trade out there when it broke out over 37 and went vertical to 66.71. Right now it's coiling, and if I don't miss my bet, we break out of this coil, this could be a $100 stock. Pretty amazing stuff. So that pretty much concludes what I wanted to talk about today, and I wanted to show you the kind of patterns that develop on intraday 1-minute charts and even on daily charts for swing trades. What I usually do for swing trades is I go to a 15-minute chart and get a clear picture of what the pattern is over the last 3 weeks before I go long something. In the case of quantum, for example, I looked at the chart, I saw the breakout, the pullback, and it starts that move up and it's still going. Perion is a perfect example as well, when it broke out above there, the breakaway gap. So I invite everybody to come to my site, thetechtrader.com. Sign up for free 2-week trial. And I think you'll really enjoy not only the atmosphere, the people that are in that, very seasoned traders, some of them, some are newbies, but the newbies are usually being mentored by some of the senior people. People in my room are very cool. And if it's a place you want to learn, make some money, have fun, and make some new friends, come to thetechtrader.com and sign up, and look forward to seeing you there. Now, what I'd like to do in the last few minutes or so is take as many questions as I can on any stocks. If you have any questions about what I do, or you want an opinion on a stock, now's a good time. David, if you have a list, let me know.
All right. Yeah, everyone in the live room right now, go ahead and type a symbol in the chat if you want Harry to look at it.
And here's by the way, here's a low price stock that I am heavily invested in myself personally. I know this company, I know what they're up to, I know what they're doing, I know the CEO. This is a really neat little company that's come from nowhere and had a big run. You can see it's gone from literally when the March, in 2019, the stock was trading a quarter, okay? But it ran up to almost 485, had a 20-fold increase. And after a 5-wave advance, had a substantial pullback. But take a look at what's happening now, an inverse head and shoulders, flag, and wedge. And I think it's about to explode. I'm looking for 3 3/4, 5, 6 1/4, and next year sometime, $8 to $9. That's at least I would call it a triple or more coming up in the next 6 months, in my opinion. That's a little stock I'm very familiar with and like a lot. Are there any questions, David?
Let's see. TLS, what do you mean when you say it coils?
Well, a coil, I can give you some examples. Anytime a stock like this, for example, it's the tops and bottoms are narrowing. This is more of an ascending coil, but any stock you can see coils developing intraday. And for stock will coil, it'll like simply go here. Here's a perfect example. Let me find a couple, because a coil is simply when a stock goes sideways, it gets narrower and narrower and narrower. It coils. It's just like what a coil is. Here, when the tops narrow, and the bottom's narrow, but they're coming to a head. The apex of the coil is right there. That's the coil. A coil is simply when it's coiling back and forth and gets narrower, 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 narrow. That's a coil. Usually it'll break out to the upside. Sometimes you get a dip and then a rip. And that's what happened in this case. But a coil is when a stock has a wider range, gets narrower and narrower and narrower until it finally breaks out. It's kind of, again, the edge or the apex of the coil is usually a meeting of minds between buyers and sellers. See, people step back to see what the next move is going to be. It coils to the apex.
Okay, and Pete asked for ATVI.
They got crushed today on news that the CEO was aware of sexual misconduct, including rape, and said nothing. The stock, it looks like they may have to fire him. 72 to 65. Well, that's intraday today. Let's look at the overall chart. Was this stock telegraphing you something, do you think? Here's a perfect long 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move with a crescendo high breakaway, or this is called an exhaustion gap. Now, it didn't signal anything until it broke right here, but notice this. It broke down, snapped right back to the breakdown point, couldn't get through. That was a signal, it's over. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5 waves down. Now, it was trying to bounce before today's news, but there's some big resistance, and I wouldn't touch this stock with the 10-foot pole, in my opinion, until it gets over 72 with energy. I would rather pay up 6 points and know that it's reversing and going higher. If it does that, 75, 78, and 82 are targets. And those targets are based on resistance, such as declining top signs, moving averages, lateral price resistance, gaps, things like that. I've been doing this, folks. I am going to be 75 in December. Most people don't believe me, but I am. And I've been doing it for 60 some odd years. What I see and what I've learned is in my book called Profitable Day and Swing Trading. It's currently not available because it's out of print, but I'm acquiring the rights to it and going to republish it. So you'll be able to get that on my site sometime in the next few weeks. All right, any other questions, David?
All right, NVIDIA.
You might be interested to know that in the case of NVIDIA, you'll love this. Yeah, it was right there, $39. When it broke out its base here, I put a swing on it. It was right there. Yeah. Anyway, the stock exploded and just kept going. Now, this is a great company, especially if anyone knows video games. And they make, isn't it called GeForce? Is that the name of their? Anyway, the bottom line is,
Yeah, I think so.
this is a phenomenal chart. And the top of the channel tells me this is going to 400. 375 to 400 minimum, in my opinion, but short-term extended, as it's gone from, as you can see, in a 5-wave move off of this pattern. Once the stock breaks out of a range, I look for the waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm a seller up here. Now, doesn't mean it can't accelerate and get up to the next target, which right now is 380. See, I always go up at an angle and show you the angle that says 380, 85. So, but I would put a tight stop on this one. I don't want this on the 287. I know it's not that far away, but if it goes on to 287, you can see 270, 60, or even 240. Let's not forget how far up the stock has gone. Just since March of this year, 116, 323, tripled in 10 months. For a large cap stock, pretty amazing. So you got to keep raising your stops on a stock like that. You cannot afford to watch this one fall apart. Not that it should or would, but you never know. Don't get married to a stock. Trade what you see, not what you think. Who cares what they make? I don't care what they earn. I'm looking at the technical patterns to tell me where it's going to go. This is a bull coil. It looks higher. If it blows out with the market, you'll see 350 and 380, my opinion. Again, stop under 287-ish. Anything
All right,
else?
next one is EWZ.
Brazil. The ETF for Brazil is as ugly as it gets. It's in a distinct downtrend. And when I see this pattern, the first thing I look for is a selling climax. We got that. We got a pop and pullback, retesting the lows, making a higher low, and then running up, but it did not break out yet. what I mean by breakout is I'm not going to be happy till I see the stock go above 34. That's a long way from here. But I would buy it or consider adding to a position or starting a position above 31.85. Why? At that range, it breaks out this high. It breaks out above the 50-day moving average, which is declining, and it breaks out across the declining channel top as well. So that signals a clear breakout for me. Targets would be 33.5 to 34 for starters, and then up here at 37. So let's call that the targets if it should break out. But you can't guarantee that, and we don't know whether this is going to be down at some point to 27.28 if it continues lower. Because back here, it reached that level, it might very well retest that. It's 27.5. So be forewarned that if it doesn't break out, it'll break down. If it breaks down, that may be a better buy than there. Next question.
All right, Bitcoin.
Well, I don't have a chart. Is it BTC?
Yeah, BTC USD depends on the platform.
Unfortunately, I can't chart that on my TC 2000.
Wasn't okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I can do this.
Here's one I like. Oh,
the GBTC.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Yeah.
Grayscale is in a beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4. But here's the problem. If this drops under 46, I'm out. Because it's that volatile, it could be 40 in a second. On the other side of the coin, if it completes another wave up, we can see 62. Note the double, triple top in here. Not only for Bitcoin, but for a lot of the Bitcoin related stocks. So if it doesn't break out, it's going to get whacked. So you got to be awfully careful in here. Bitcoin's gotten crushed back under 50,000 today, wasn't it? Am I right? Or under 60, excuse me. I don't remember what it was down substantially.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, Bitcoin's at just above 60,000 right now.
Yeah, the low is it ticked underneath it.
Here's one I like personally. Keys. Are you familiar with KEYS?
KTYS?
No, KEYS.
Oh, yeah. Good company. I've been watching this stock for years.
Yeah.
Look at that chart. I mean, I drew this line, by the way, I drew this chart in here when it broke out. I actually traded this stock in here in the 38 range, and I got out when it spiked up here at 54. Yeah, I mean, I'm a trader, so I don't care. But this is the long-term move. And look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move. With 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth wave of fifth. This is a fifth of a fifth. So you always have to understand that in 4 years, maybe 5 now, 21 to 190, almost 200, you're looking at a 10-fold increase in the stock. So you've got to continue to raise your stops on something like this. And frankly, it's at the top of the channel. I always tell my students that at the top of a channel, you either get a steep pullback or at least a retest, or it breaks out and runs and it smokes it. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row, we often see a pullback. It's a great chart. It's overbought long-term, and it's a little overbought short-term. But there's no reason to sell a stock that's this kind of momentum. None. That's my opinion.
All right. Yeah. SIGA is the next one.
Yeah, Seeger. I know this company. So interesting chart. Note that this was a penny stock, 20 cents, December 15th. It ran up to 8 or so, 8 1/4, 8 1/2. But look what it's done since then. This is back in 2018. So 3 years it's gone sideways. But the point is, when a stock goes up that much, the consolidation is healthy. What I want you to do is look at this and look at that. Right now it's at a point where if it breaks out here, it could go vertical. It could be a monster. This looks like it's on the verge of a breakout, doesn't it? So, but I would want to take this out first. It's 810 there and 809 there. So you can see a double top in that range. Once we get above 810, I would look for it to make a much more major move. The measured move of which is at least 2 points and 2 more points from here. So 9 3/4, 10 is my target on a swing. If you see it up there, maybe time to peel it back a little bit. But hey, in biotech, the stock could go bonkers. There's quite a few stocks that I like that are low price stocks these days. I think this is a really important big time for low price stocks because I think so many stocks have run up so fast over a period of the last few years that low price stocks will emerge. And at the tail end of every bull market in history, low price stocks exploded. And that was a signal that speculation is upon us and that there's no more ideas in higher price stocks. They're overpriced or overvalued. And we're seeing that in the large cap mega stocks. So for me, I'm looking for low price ideas. This could be a good one. Thanks for the idea.
All right. And I think we have time for one more quick one. So Sal asked for Macy's, M.
Yeah, great chart. And on Macy's, I told everybody this is a swing trade if it breaks out over at 21. It popped to 23 3/4 and pulled back, and then popped and pulled back and popped and flagged. And now it's flagging again. The long-term chart. I know it sounds crazy, but this could be double from here, no question. We'll take a look at the highs up in this range in the 48 range. 3 of them. There, and there a little bit lower, but quite frankly, mid to high 40s is my target range on it. Retail stocks look great. No reason to be a seller in this stock. It keeps climbing and it's actually accelerating. Looks great. I guess that's it.
All right. Yeah.
Thanks everybody for being here. Please log into thetechtrader.com. Sign up for a free 2-week trial. Enjoy the room and make some money, and then come aboard, and look forward to seeing you guys in there. Thanks again, everybody, and feel free to check us out at thetechtrader.com. Thanks for being here, everybody. Look forward to talking with you guys again. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Harry.
Bye-bye.